It's Monday after week 0. Who stood out? Nebraska versus Northwestern. Some rookies and who's going to make their push here to get on the roster, and some of our favorite standouts today on Locked On NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. I am your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, as always, got my guy Ryan Tracy from Rogue Analytics and Locked On Chiefs. He is at Ryan Tracy NFL on Twitter, and I am at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day, and also let you know that this episode is brought to you by Brightco Jewelry and Watch Insurance. Brightco brings you the comprehensive, fast, and affordable jewelry insurance for as low as $5 per month. Check out your special offer from Locked On listeners and get covered in under 2 minutes at brightco.com/locked on. That's brightco.com/locked on. All right, Ryan, let's get into again, we got college football, and it was exciting. I know everyone was really tuned in to everything that was going on in the college football landscape, and there were some games that weren't as fun, but there was a big game, a conference game. You got Northwestern against Nebraska, and they played somewhere else. I don't even know. I was watching it, and I'm like, this isn't like a college stadium or anything, but it was like overseas.
It was Ireland, deep in the heart of Dublin, Ireland. They were.
So what's the? Are they just trying to? Or is college football just trying to get more fans in Ireland?
Yeah.
Or
it's like the international series, right? I thought it was cool. I thought the field looked great. It's like the most great. Like they call Ireland the Emerald Isle for a reason. Like my answers are from there, and I was really happy personally to see it because there's a lot of interest in Ireland for not just NFL football, for college football too.
The NFL has been going overseas. I mean, they've been going to England and all that, but Ireland, that's an interesting one there. But they were in for a treat because it was a terrific game that came down to the last couple of drives of the game. Nebraska ended up losing to Northwestern 28-31, but not before there was some fireworks and an interesting decision from a certain coach, Coach Frost from Nebraska on the onside kick. But a couple standouts there, right? And we're starting to dive into some of these guys that are, draft prospects, and we will eventually start to turn the page over to the 2023 class entirely. But a player that stood out to me, watching Anthony Grant, running back for Nebraska, and this was a guy who, on paper, nothing too crazy in the sense of his numbers. If you're kind of, just reading the box score, 19 carries, 101 yards, had a couple of touchdowns, awesome, right? But to me, it was more so the ability. When he needed to run strong with power, he ran strong with power. There was one play that I thought was exceptional, and it's probably going to be a highlight of his. Whenever he gets drafted, they're going to show this play where he broke out to the open field, made a guy miss. I mean, and when I say made him miss, it wasn't just, let me make him miss and just kind of break an arm tackle or something. But, I mean, it was broke him down, gave him a move on top of a move in open space, just destroyed the safety. And then from there, made one more guy miss and then took a nice angle to the end zone, outran the rest of the Northwestern defense to get there. And I just thought, I don't know much about this kid, but this was a terrific run. And then you start to find out kind of his journey, and he was a junior college transfer. But overall, I was very impressed with just how he ran and what it looked like. And I'm curious now to continue to watch this kid out of Wisconsin. I know you have a player that you want to talk about before we get to him. Two more players that I saw that were just really kind of notable from that game. Casey Thompson, the quarterback from Nebraska, not great with his 2 interceptions, but completed 25 out of 42 passes. There was one play in particular, again, if he goes undrafted and he ends up getting picked up at some point, they're going to show this play where he runs left, goes backwards, has his entire back turned to the defense, turns around and just fires it down the field to one of his open receivers, who then caught it, made guys miss, and almost scored a touchdown. It really was an amazing play, and just the the effort that he put forward there. It showed the ability that he has to be able to make plays off script. He is a smaller guy, 6'1", 195 pounds. That's what he listed at. And he looks even a little bit more
compact.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. There we go. I was going to say like pudgy or something, but like he doesn't look pudgy, but yeah, a little bit more compact. So to see him be able to do that, kind of make plays on the move, and he made plays with his legs a few times. I thought that was very intriguing. And then a receiver from Northwestern, Malik Washington, 8 receptions, 97 yards. This was a smaller receiver, kind of a jittery butt guy that you just want to get the ball in his hands in space. He made some notable plays to me and was just very consistent throughout the game. But overall, a very exciting game. But I know you have something on one of the edge rushers.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a note on the Nebraska offensive players, like both Thompson and Grant, they're going to have to be guys that they rely on. So, like, take this week 0 as week 0, because Frost is supposed to be a guy that can get an offense rolling. Well, let's see what he can do with new blood. Hopefully they can get on that, because I thought the defense didn't quite live up to what I was hoping for. And I really watched this game for one player. Yes, just all thoughts aside, I have family members that are Cornhuskers, so like I get to watch all these games. So I have a tendency to put blinders on. I was watching O'Shawn Mathis. That's the point that I was there for. I didn't get quite enough. I think it was 20 snaps that he played. He got 8 actual pass rushes and ended up with a pressure on 1. I had hoped for a little bit more against that offensive line, to tell you the truth. But when you take a look at it, PFF has his actual pass rush win percentage at 22.5. That's a good day out. And that's a good basis, again, to make this week 0 game add up for your season. But I will say, 8 actual pass rushes and you get a pressure out of it, that's a 12% rate. That's better than anybody in the NFL. So I think this is a positive step forward, but has a lot of room to build on. I think he's one of the guys that I'm going to be watching on that defense all year. And the Nebraska players, whether on one side or the other, is a guy that I'll bring up later that I think is doing something in the NFL that they can all emulate themselves after.
Yep, a lot of players that are doing some big-time things in college football. We're going to continue to kind of dive into those guys, of course, throughout this college football season. But now we're going to kind of focus back on this 2022 class and some of these young guys that are standing out in the preseason right now. All right. But before we get to those guys, we definitely want to let you know about our good friends over at Brightco. All right. And listen, guys, here's the lesson. You don't want to be that guy. And you certainly don't want to get splattered all over the internet being the guy that Brightco Jewelry Insurance will make sure that you get a replacement for a full value of that ring that you get for your significant other. No matter what it costs, whether it's stolen or you just can't figure out what happened to it. Go to brightco.com/locked on. It's the fastest and easiest, cheapest way to cover your butt with the best jewelry insurance in the business. These guys at brightco.com, man, they're pretty much geniuses, all right? They make buying insurance for your engagement ring, your watch, or whatever it is super easy, and you can get it covered in 2 minutes on your cell phone. You won't find a better deal or anything that has as great a coverage than that, and it's super affordable. All right. Well, I know. We all hate insurance, right? But these guys over at Brightco, they turned the whole experience around. So it's probably the easiest thing for you to do. And again, there's no excuses. For $5 a month, you can get total comprehensive coverage, and it won't take you more than 2 minutes from your cell phone. Check it out right now at bright.co/locked on. Again, you have to see all these videos that they have. Guys fumbling engagement rings into the water. Guys just, screwing up the situation. I know my wife and I, she lost a rock in her diamond. We didn't have insurance for it. I had to go pay out of pocket. You don't want to do that, all right? You pay 2 times as much when you do it that way. So go find all these hilarious videos at bright.com/locked on and get covered today. We definitely want to thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen every day. And make sure you check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview starting August 31st. All right, an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. All right, the local team experts on the Locked On Podcast Network and Odyssey NFL Insiders all combining into one Ultimate NFL Preview. Starting August 31st, search for the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you find your podcast. the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've had this kind of quarterback situation. Obviously, they were the first team to draft a quarterback. It happened to be Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh, and he stays in Pittsburgh, going to the Steelers. And there have been a lot of conversations about, well, how is this situation going to play out? How is it going to work? Who's going to be their starting quarterback? Well, I think right now it's very clear who their starting quarterback is, and that is the guy that started off being the starting quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky. Trubisky has played well so far throughout the preseason. Watched him Sunday and looked good. Ball came out of his hands very well. He threw a deep ball that was gorgeous to Deontay Johnson over the shoulder, probably about 40 yards down the field, maybe even further than that. He looked in total command of the offense. He looked very comfortable throwing the ball over the middle. Now, how good is Detroit Lions defense? I don't know. I like what they're doing. I've been watching Hard Knocks and Dan Campbell and what they're doing. Aaron Glenn, I don't want to say funny story, but Aaron Glenn was a scout when I was with the New York Jets. So not a coach. Obviously wasn't playing at this time. He was just a scout on the sideline taking notes. And when it was time for me to go home, that was for, like for summer break or, OTAs ended and whatnot. He's who I would meet with. And he would just tell me like, okay, this is where you're at. You're doing this. Okay, you ran 4.55, et cetera. And kind of go over things and, okay, hey, just do this when you get home and then come back and, everything's good. He was a scout. And now you look at him, he worked his way up, ended up being a defensive back coach for some years, did a terrific job with the Saints. Now he's the defensive coordinator for the Lions. So I like those guys, but the defense still needs a little work even after drafting Aiden Hutchinson. So right now, Trubisky having his way, and it looks like Kenny Pickett will kind of be the backup. And a lot of people expected that, but Mason Rudolph, he made that decision a little bit tougher than we thought it initially was going to be. But what are some of your thoughts on just that quarterback situation or any other rookie quarterback situation? We've got to watch Desmond Ridder. We've seen Malik Willis a lot more now. Bailey Zappi has played a lot. Obviously, he's not going to push for a starting spot over Mac Jones. But, a lot of talk around this quarterback class.
Yeah, and I would argue not that Mason Rudolph made it easier. Kenny Pickett took a while to warm up is what I would say, because I didn't think it looked that great early. And there were a number of folks, especially in the local Pittsburgh market, that didn't think Kenny was going to be able to pull it together. I'm glad to see that he's on the rise. Now, my only question is, can he keep that momentum? Because I'd like to see him keep pushing. I personally don't have faith that Trubisky's going to be a quarterback in the regular season that can get it done consistently. So as good as he looked here in the preseason, that's fine. But I can't put my eggs in that basket. I can't bank on Trubisky being the guy that can win ball games. So I need Pickett if he's going to be the backup and the guy who's the only other guy that's going to get reps during the week, right? I have to make sure that he's continually getting better. And if it doesn't happen to this point where he can play in the first half of the season, I can live with that as long as he's progressing. And I'm hoping to see that. There are some other rookies that are making some progress. And so you hope that he'd be able to keep pace with the Skylar Thompsons of the world.
And, outside of Skylar Thompson, are there any rookies that you expect to start, let's say, by mid-season, right? Because a couple guys might have an opportunity. Look at Desmond Ridder over there in Atlanta. One, Marcus Mariota just has to stay healthy, so that's part of it. He looks like the for sure starter there. But there have been some really good things out of Desmond Ridder. I've been surprised. Now, his interception number, I think, is higher than what it should be. I was watching the game the other day, and right before halftime, he just heaves one up, and it gets intercepted as time expires, right? But when you look at his just overall numbers, you see an interception on the paper, and I'm like, man, all interceptions are not created equal. I think outside of that, there were, obviously a lot of concerns about his accuracy heading into the season, but overall, I thought he was pretty solid. Pretty solid. Just watching him, the way the ball came out of his hands, I thought it looked good. I thought he was doing a really good job of being a playmaker. That wasn't something that I was necessarily expecting to see from him, although he has that type of ability, but just looked really comfortable. And I think he got one of the ultimate compliments, man. I was watching this 5-star quarterback, actually the number 1 quarterback or number 2, depending on who you look at. I know Arch Manning, some people have him number 1, but the number 1 or number 2 quarterback in the nation. And his name is Malachi Nelson. He's out of California. I was watching him play against his Florida Heritage School. And they're like, the comp for him, Desmond Ridder. Looks a lot like Desmond Ridder. And they were right. He did. So that's cool that people kind of, value him to that extent to where they see a prospect. And they're like, man, it looks like Desmond Ridder. But Desmond Ridder has to look more like the Desmond Ridder at his peak and whatever that is to be able to potentially overtake Marcus Mariota for a starting quarterback spot.
I think he will eventually, though, whether it is because Marcus has a significant injury history or because he continues to progress. I will say one thing. There's also a couple of interceptions that he nearly threw that got dropped. So there's still, like, in that second ball game, I was a little iffier on Desmond, but I do think he put it together for the third game. I like where we're going in this progress. I do think he has a shot to start by the midpoint of the season, one way or the other. The question will be, what can he do with that? Will Drake London be in full form? Will Pitts be enough? Can they run the ball enough to help him? Because you're right, I was surprised at how many plays he's making with his legs. He's out there looking like Malik Willis half the time, you know what I mean? And that's not what I think his game needs to be. But it does have a tendency to keep a defense honest when they know you can break the pocket like that. So maybe that is something he can build his game on. I think, obviously, Skylar Thompson's had a very efficient first preseason here, so kudos to him. Malik Willis, I think, started to put it together. Now, I don't know what the competition level was that I'd say that he played against,
right.
So let's be honest. But, at least his coach wasn't going to tell him, hey, stay in the pocket and throw the damn ball.
Right, and that's what happened with Malik Willis. Malik Willis had a very explosive play, and you watch it from the All-22. Nobody was open. They had this nice concept. Really, Trey Lance missed on this concept during the 49ers game. But you had a post with a dig underneath it, and it was covered extremely well from the defenders. And Malik Willis said, you know what, I'm just going to take off and do this myself. And he had like a 60-yard run. So that was exciting to see. I think everyone knows he can do those things and be that playmaker off script. Can he win from the pocket? That's what they want to see from him more consistently. All right. We're going to keep an eye on those guys for sure. And also, who has stood out to us so far throughout preseason? We'll dive into a few guys now. We'll get into some more guys on the next episode. All right. But first, we want to talk to you a little bit about our good friends over at Prize Picks. All right. Listen, Prize Picks, it's a daily fantasy. All right. And those are fun because you get to go on there every single day, whether it's football, baseball, basketball. You can look at over-unders. You can pick the guys that you want to pin against each other, create parlays, and have a fun time doing it. Check out all the lines that they have. All right. Listen, what do you love about their games and formats? It's easy for me to see what I love because it's simple. It's easy and it's straight to the point. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they will go score more or less than their Prize Pick projections, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections that are available. Prize Picks offer projections on any sport that you can watch. That includes NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, golf, MMA, boxing. I mean, they have it for everything, and it's safe. And the withdrawals are extremely fast. Currently operating in over 30 states and also Canada if you are good friends north of the border. All right. Download the Prize Picks app right now. Go to prizepicks.com and sign up and play their daily fantasy sports. All right. First time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. All right. So what that means is if you want to deposit $50, they're going to match that $50 and you're going to have $100 to play with. If you want to put in $100, they're going to match that $100 and you have $200 to play with. All right. All you have to do is use the promo code Locked On. And if your deposit is $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, again, Prize Picks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On as sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100. Let's talk about some of these rookies who have stood out to us so far. And for me, a couple guys stand out, especially for me. You know, I like watching the receivers and defensive backs. I think everybody knows that. But one that immediately jumps out to me, and I like the way he's been challenging himself, and he's been playing strong in there. I'm like, wow, this guy, he's up there. And I thought he was one of the top corners. I feel like a lot of people were kind of sleeping on him for whatever reason. I still don't know why. But Kyrie Elam, out of Florida, he's been doing a terrific job for Buffalo. I cannot wait to watch him opposite Tre'Davious White. And we all know Tre'Davious White, he's recovering from that injury that took him out last season. Kyrie Elam looks like he's stepping in. This is a legit starter, a guy that is extremely competitive and aggressive at the line of scrimmage. When he's playing off, he's driving passes, knocking balls away. We all know that cornerback, it's a very difficult position to transition straight to the NFL and have a lot of success because they just put more on your plate. But this is a guy who right now, in its simplistic form, has done a really good job. He's going to see a lot more once season comes, a lot more motions, different type of formations. They're going to try to scheme against him. He will have his ups and downs, but overall, I think they have their cornerback of the future. So I just kind of want to give him his props right away. Is there anyone that stands out to you so far?
Yeah, honestly, I'm a little jealous of Elam because the guy that I know that they were looking at, but they didn't quite get, was McDuffie. McDuffie's been very good this offseason as well. Problem is, same thing, aggressive, really great coming up and supporting the run as well as playing his part of the game. He suffered a concussion, so I just hope that he's able to go forward because I like the two of these guys kind of performing in tandem as we watch two of the powerhouses in Buffalo and Kansas City like progress through this season. Two rookies are going to be called on a lot, and I want to see just how much they come through. Now, on the other side of the ball, a couple of guys that stand out that have played really well. We talked about Isaiah Likely, obviously had a great preseason. Sir Jake Ferguson, 7 for 7 this particular preseason. Two tight ends that are standing out, but Khalil Shakir, 100% catch rate at this point. Let's see, a couple of guys in Cincinnati, Kendrick Pryor and my guy Kwame Lassiter II. Really great standout, efficient numbers that I think in deep wide receiver rooms, it's going to be tough to make some rosters, but they got to show you enough that they can show you. I'm really excited about what they bring. Obviously, we talked about George Pickens a couple of weeks ago. Other guys that stand out, can Dontario Drummond continue to progress? Obviously, Dubs had some fanfare. Will he continue to progress? There's a lot of small sparks that I think will add up. I like the way that the pass-catching group in this draft is really standing out in the first few weeks of their careers.
You just talked about the pass rushers that are standing out, and obviously the Aiden Hutchinson, and we're going to dive into more of him. But I think the one who a lot of people were kind of iffy on, right? Like, how is this going to work out? But so far, Trevon Walker, he has shown the necessary flashes that you want to see. He had a terrific sack in the first preseason game. He's been the guy that has a high motor. He's in a lot during these games. He's playing a little bit more than I was expecting, especially for a top guy, but obviously wanting to get him more of those reps on the outside. That's something to continue to watch right there. Other edge rushers, San Francisco 49ers have Drake Jackson. He's been solid off of the edge, putting together really terrific teach tape type stuff, one hand stabs, swim moves, all kind of things rushing off of the edge there. He's been solid. How has George Karlaftis look? Because that was a guy who people were looking at as kind of this fringe first rounder. He's not a speedy guy, but he plays with strength. But what does it look like so far for the Kansas City Chiefs?
He's been good off the ball. He is exactly what he was in college in terms of great explosive first step, great motor. He's learned a few new tricks so far in the preseason. An excellent spin move that's coming together really nicely. That's allowing that motor to pay off for him as he comes off, getting pushed, getting double teams already, pushed high in the pocket where he's able to come around and get a secondary move that helps him get there. But I tell you, the guy that I want to shout out is because you look at win percentage on a down-to-down basis, hasn't had as many pass rush snaps as some of the other rookies here. But the guy that's actually outperforming where my expectation for him was one of my guys in this draft, Myjai Sanders, is playing very well. Can he put it all together and get the pass rush number and get those pressures? We hope so. But boy, Mafe, your guy from this draft, is playing very well. Got to put it together. It's going up another level when they start the regular season, but I think those two guys are doing pretty well.
One more guy who maybe not playing to expectations, and now he's down with an injury. All right. It's never good when you're a rookie and you're out indefinitely. But Trevor Penning had up and down camp, trying to bully guys. Is that going to work for him? Now he's out. He has a torn ligament in his toe, which essentially is turf toe. They don't know when the 19th overall pick will be back. So not good news coming out of New Orleans for, a guy who, they used one of their 2 first-round picks for. He was a guy who, I don't want to call him a project, but there definitely was a little greenness to him in areas where he needed to improve. Not going to really have that opportunity to work through those things this year until maybe later in the year. And even then, are they playing for a playoff spot? So that's going to be something to really watch on when it comes to Trevor Penning. All right. I can't wait to continue to talk to all of these guys, but that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On NFL Draft. I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. And now, for your second listen, go make Locked On Fantasy Football your second listen of the day. Find the intellectual fantasy expert, Vinny, who brings over 20 years of NFL expertise and unique angle to give you the moves no one else can. All right, get ready for your fantasy football drafts with Locked On Fantasy Football. But till then, we're out. From Eric Crocker, from Ryan Tracy. Again, you guys can find us on social media at Ryan Tracy NFL, at Eric Crocker on Twitter. Also, tune in to the YouTube channel. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. All that good stuff. Run those numbers up. But till then, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.